Hello, beautiful people. 'Tis I, the anti-sugar daddy, and in this video we're going to be covering the common and not so common causes of eczema. This is a list that I have compiled from my years of dealing with eczema, my years of being a registered nurse, and all of the time in between trying to figure out what the causes are, because in conventional medicine they will usually tell you it's in your blood, your parents or your grandparents had it and now you have it, and that's not always the case. So I'm going to give you a comprehensive list of the information that I have gathered so that you can figure this out and move on your way without having to have a skin condition for the rest of your life. So let's go ahead and dive in. Number one, and what most people in traditional medicine will tell you, is genetics. It's in your genes, it's in your blood. This is what I was told when I was struggling with eczema, but I didn't believe it, and it just wasn't the case, because I've done a DNA report recently, and what it says is I don't have any negative genetic markers for skin condition. So what does that tell me? That tells me that what caused my eczema was something completely different. And when you can figure this out with your gene testing, which your conventional doctor isn't going to do for you, you can identify if you have those skin genes. If you do, then you're going to have to take action to fix that. But if you don't, then it's likely something else. So genetics is a component in skin conditions, but from the people I work with and in my own case, genetics isn't usually the issue. And that leads to number two, which is gut issues. This is actually going to be probably one of the biggest issues for most people. This is where food sensitivities come into play. What ends up happening is your digestive tract is actually like a donut. Imagine it like a donut with a hole in it, right? So from your mouth to your anus, you have this hole going through your body, and that is your digestive tract. It's actually, in medicine, it's not really considered a part of you. It's like having a hole, right? And through your whole entire digestive system, you have very different lining. Your skin is very strong and firm, right? But inside of your body, you have this intestinal mucosa in your intestines, which is very soft. It's just like inside your mouth. And this can become inflamed. And what ends up happening in the intestines are very important. You have the small and large intestine. They're very important for nutrient absorption, especially in the small intestine. What ends up happening is this lining, it's normally like this. When enough inflammation enters your body, it starts opening up. And when this opens up, this starts getting into your blood. So you have your digestive system on this side. This opens up and this goes into your blood, into your body. Not the best visual representation, but you guys aren't getting a biochemistry degree on this stuff, so it'll be fine. But when all of these things go into your bloodstream, it starts causing more inflammation and it can cause skin issues. For me, in my DNA report, I didn't know this at the time, I had 4 genes for leaky gut. Leaky gut can cause a plethora of issues, but with a lot of the clients I work with, leaky gut is an issue that commonly causes eczema. A lot of people with leaky gut usually have some food sensitivities that will cause more issues. Removing the food sensitivities, for some people it's gluten, for some people it's dairy, it will all depend based on your report. But removing that and then doing some gut healing is usually what can fix it. For me, I started changing my diet so many times when I was going through eczema, and then eventually I changed my diet to raw foods. I'm not saying you need to do this, but this worked for me. I went to like very raw foods, and I was about 75% healed at that time. And when I implemented that, within a week, everything sealed up. So it was absolutely a gut issue. And if you think you have a gut issue, I highly recommend getting a DNA report done so you can find out if you have leaky gut genes. And then what you can do about it. If you're interested in learning about that, I have a program called 90 Day Skin Saver. It's a video course which goes through all of this stuff and more, and it also gives you the DNA report, and it's extremely affordable. It's what I wish I had when I was going through everything. So if you're interested in that, click the link below. And then for number 3, we have bacterial overgrowth. Now, this is usually a byproduct of not having a strong digestive tract or your body being out of balance. So when your body and your immune system aren't functioning properly, bacteria and other things like to grow. Just like if you leave food in the fridge and the fridge turns off, bacteria is going to start growing because it's in an environment that's not conducive to keep the bacteria out, right? So the bacteria starts growing to decompose things. Bacteria can start growing on your skin if your pH isn't right. So for a lot of people, they'll have a Staphylococcus aureus, Staph aureus overgrowth on their skin. It usually is in the nose and on the skin. And this happens when your pH is out of balance. If your pH is too high, if it's at like a 7.5, you can usually start getting Staph aureus overgrowth. If we can bring the pH back down through optimal nutrition and other things like clays, then if you can get it down to like a 5, usually the staph is going to have a very hard time living. Now, we're talking about bacteria here, right? A lot of you will think, oh, I got to go to my doctor and get some antibiotics. Well, if you get the antibiotics, what will usually end up happening, obviously this is not medical advice, but from my own personal experience, if you get antibiotics, you'll take them, they'll destroy all the good bacteria in your gut, and then you have gut issues, and then you have worse eczema. So it's usually better to just optimize your diet, your lifestyle, get your pH in balance, and then usually things will take care. Your body will figure it out on its own. Another thing for those of you who have babies or kids, or even if you have yourself eczema in the scalp, that's caused by Malassezia, Malassezia yeast. And that's usually the same thing. It's a pH imbalance. What a lot of people will do, they'll go buy a Head and Shoulders anti-dandruff shampoo and they'll just use that for the rest of their life. I did that. It doesn't work. You got to get rid of the yeast, and you got to do that through optimal nutrition and decreasing your skin's pH if it's too high. Number 4, this ties hand in hand with what we talked about, but immune system dysfunction. Now more than ever, we have an extreme level of stress that's never been experienced before in humanity. Our ancestors used to have very stressful lives, but they also had a lot of rest. Now we don't have that, and our immune systems are taxed. We have toxins in our environment. We have all of these things going on all the time. Most people can't even find 10 minutes to meditate. And this causes an imbalance in who we used to be and how our genes work. In the modern world, people are living in a way that has never been experienced before, just glued to their phones all the time, never taking time for themselves. And this causes immune system dysfunction. Everyone talks about the immune system. This is the reason why crazy crises happen, just like in, I don't even know what year it was, 2020. And it's all, everyone just talks about the immune system. Oh, use your I don't even know what this is called, your antiseptic stuff that they use in the hospitals. Everyone's so worried about catching germs. The germs are usually coming because of an over paranoia with them, and because we're not living how we used to live. And so always getting back to being able to have a proper sleep schedule, being able to de-stress, being able to meditate, being able to spend time with family, being able to have fun in life. All of those things will help your immune system. And then of course there's additional supplements that we can talk about on this channel in the future. But immune system dysfunction is definitely an issue for many people. Number 5, environmental triggers. Most household products, you guys are probably going to freak out when I say this, but most household products are crap. For example, deodorant. Most people use deodorant. They've never thought about it. It's what they've used for their whole entire life. Deodorant, usually, most of them, have aluminum in them. You put the aluminum in your skin, it goes into your body, and the aluminum finds its way into your brain. So that's just one example of the many things. There's a substance called PFAs. This is the substance of Teflon. You may have heard this in the movie Black Waters. There's a pan. The pan that everyone uses has Teflon on it. The Teflon causes cancers. And they found Teflon in various parts of the water in US. There's huge legal cases about this. And that kind of stuff is on your receipt paper. It's in your floss. So being able to identify these things, understand them, and then buy from companies that are conscious of what they're putting into other humans. That's extremely important. For some people, they have a buildup of all of these substances in their body. And the number one way that we can fix this is by first removing it. And then from there, we can do detox. And this leads right into number 6, which is toxin exposure. So we live in cities that are completely polluted. For example, I live in Medellin, Colombia, and this city it's just a big cesspool for a bunch of pollution to come down. The air quality here is not very good. So I'm not exactly practicing what I'm preaching. But air quality, food quality is massive. One of the reasons I actually live here is because the food quality in South America is usually much better than in the United States. The United States is loaded with a chemical called glyphosate. This is what you use to kill insects in your garden, aka Roundup. And this chemical, you can just go into PubMed or go into Google Scholar and just type in glyphosate and its negative effects, and you will find a ridiculous amount of articles on what glyphosate does to the body. It's noted to cause cancer. It's noted to cause massive gut issues, and they found glyphosate in polar bears. So this kind of stuff is everywhere in the world, and it's absolute poison. The company is trash, and it has to be avoided at all costs. So I would say try and identify if you have glyphosate, but because most people do have glyphosate in their body, doing gut healing is really important. And just knowing about this chemical and removing it and making sure that you're buying specific foods that are clean. There's something called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. Especially in the US, this is important. All pesticides are in the Dirty Dozen. So like the Dirty Dozen are 12 foods that you should absolutely buy organic, because they're just those foods are sprayed with the worst pesticides and glyphosate. So just type in Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen and it'll come up with a list of foods. The Clean 15 you can buy non-organic and you're good. Number 7. It's been harped on a little bit, but stress levels are higher than ever. When I was working as a registered nurse, I had absolutely no idea. Even though I had studied it in school, I had no idea what the parasympathetic nervous system was, because I could never get into it because I was so stressed all the time. So with your nervous systems, you have the parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest, and you have the sympathetic, which is your fight or flight. Nowadays, we are glued to our phones, we're on the computer all the time, we're running around, we're working in cubicles with fluorescent lights, and it's just not normal. People are avoiding the sun because they think it causes cancer, all of these things. And what ends up happening is our bodies just become more and more stressed as we push away from being natural and living like our ancestors did. And this stress begins to add up. If you are not able to sit and meditate for 10 minutes because your mind's wandering way too much, which is pretty normal for most people, you need to meditate for an hour. Because the stress levels nowadays are so high, and what will end up happening, and I saw this with a lot of my coworkers, is they get so used to the stress that the stress becomes a part of their identity and they can't rest anymore. It's just this constant barrage of not feeling safe and feeling like they have to be doing something, and this is extremely toxic to the body. Stress hormones are only good to protect you. But if you're never feeling safe and they're in your body all the time, stress hormones will kill you. I would say slowly, but very quickly. For example, blood pressure, it's called the silent killer. Most people have high blood pressure because their stress is too high. So finding more time to get into nature, to relax, doing meditation, having practices, doing things you love, getting away from cell phones, stuff like that, and just allowing your mind to relax. That is extremely important to decrease stress and heal quicker. Number 8, nutritional deficiencies. I'm not going to go too into this. Nutritional deficiencies usually are connected to something like leaky gut or eating poor quality foods. Usually when you start eating healthier, get your body back into balance, decrease stress, increase your immune system, your body can start healing more. One thing I will say is a lot of people have mucoid plaque in their intestines. What this is, I'll make another video on it, but it's a substance from eating a bunch of food all the time, never fasting, eating a bunch of processed junk, our intestines begin to become very inflamed, and they create this plaque. And the plaque ends up sitting on top of the intestine, and it's taking up space. So this is the intestine. If the intestine is responsible for absorbing nutrients, and you have this plaque on top of it because it's inflamed, you're not going to get nutrients in this section. I actually removed mucoid plaque from my digestive system recently, and in 2 months, I was putting on more weight, had higher energy levels, all of these things. So nutritional deficiencies are definitely a thing. You want to make sure that your vitamins and all of this are optimized, but it usually comes back to the digestion of the small intestines and the large intestines, how well they're absorbing your vitamins and minerals. Number 9, hormonal imbalance. Like I said before, we're not living like we used to. Men have lower testosterone levels now than their great-grandparents did 100 years ago. Men's testosterone levels are an absolute abomination, and it's because of all of these things we've talked about before. And then for women, estrogen levels and the use of pharmaceuticals like birth control and Nexplanon and all of these different things that have now been provided, and albeit it's a good thing that women can freely and safely have sex whenever they want to without being worried about having a kid, but it does come at a cost, because every time somebody takes birth control, they pee it out, it goes back into the water system, and it usually ends up in the tap water because there aren't filters that are strong enough to filter for these kinds of pharmaceuticals because the particles are so small. And that causes a lot of issues, not only for men, but also women who are just kind of like re-drinking these pharmaceuticals. And obviously there's tons of case studies and evidence of people who have been on birth control and have massive issues. I've had several women who I've dated who have been on birth control started having suicidal thoughts, issues. One person in particular was on Nexplanon, started having massive hormonal issues, and eventually they both had to get off, and they got way better. I can only really speak from anecdotal experience and the papers I've read, and the amount of women that I've talked to who have gotten off of birth control and said that they feel remarkably better after is a very high number, and it's definitely more than an anecdote because I've talked to a lot of people about this. Number 10, we have liver issues. Your liver is one of the most important organs for detoxifying all of the things that we've talked about, the chemicals, the toxins, the pollutants that go into your body. The liver is really, really strong at detoxifying, but what ends up happening is we bombard the liver with drinking alcohol, with all of these toxins that it wasn't used to, and it takes its toll. And most people aren't connected to their body enough to even know what the liver feels like, where it's at. The liver's actually right here, under your ribs. Yeah, the liver is also an emotional place for anger. Anger usually goes there, and so you can have a lot of issues with the liver, especially if you're an angry person, where it gets blocked up. It slows down. You can't digest things as well. Your gallbladder isn't working as well. And bile, which is needed, doesn't get produced as well or doesn't get excreted as well. And all of these things block up the body more. And when the liver isn't working properly, other functions and other systems in the body have to function in order to fix this. And they start getting overworked. So being able to clean up the liver and make sure it's healthy, make sure it's working properly, make sure that there's not an overflow of toxins in it, and that if any toxins do come in, it's going to do its job properly and it's going to be out of your body very quickly. That's extremely important, and we talk about all that in the course. So click the link below if you want to join the 90-day Skin Saver. Number 11, we got parasites. I love talking about this stuff. The past couple months, I've had hundreds upon hundreds of parasites come out of my stool. Whenever they come out, they're dead. I have done a lot of research on this topic. I work with one of the best detox specialists in the world, and parasites are very much a real thing. In Western medicine, they discredit them completely. But I have the photos to prove it. So if you do not want to see the parasites and the gross stuff I'm about to show you, you can just click off of this video after joining the 90-day Skin Saver, and then you can see it there. But I'm going to show you right now. So yeah, these parasites, they find their way into our body through contaminated food, through travel. Most people think that it's only from third world countries. That's just not the case. Parasites are very much a part of the human experience. They exist. I don't know what the reason for is, but what ends up happening is parasites, if you have a lot of them, just think of the word parasite and the meaning that you have assigned to it. Because for me, a parasite is something that takes without giving back. And it actually, it gives you things back, but it's always negative. And so parasites in the body, there's different types. There's microparasites, there's worms. I've seen a lot of worms and I've seen a lot of eggs come out, and I feel remarkably better getting them out. But these parasites, they take from you. And so when you start eating, they're the first to take. And then they'll usually release waste products, and your body has to process those. So the parasite doesn't give you anything. It's actually taking your energy. It's taking your nutrients. It's even... These things can be embedded in your vagus nerve. Like, they can be so far in the digestive tract, and they create these little homes. I know you a lot of you have probably clicked off by now, but this stuff completely exists. And I've seen people who have extremely terrible emotional, almost personalities. The way they show up in the world is it's very emotionally charged, and it's very angry, and they get rid of parasites and they're a different person. It's absolutely crazy, because just think about it. You have this thing that is taking from you and giving nothing back, and when you kill it off, it releases a bunch of gas. It makes you feel like crap, so you don't kill them anymore. They're crazy. And a lot of people who have skin conditions, most people I know have parasites, but a lot of people with skin conditions have parasites, and that could actually be something that's causing more issues. At the end of the day, you're going to want to get them out regardless. It's deep emotional work. It's very deep work, and there's a lot of things you got to do beforehand. You got to clean your gut, you got to clean the liver, and then you got to kill the parasites. We talk about this in the program if you want to go deeper, but absolutely a thing, and I've got even more photos if you need me to send those your way. And then finally, number 12, this is not a cause of eczema, but it will give you skin issues. So eczema is a specific diagnosis. If you get candida is a yeast overgrowth. It happens in the gut. We all have candida in our gut, but if it overgrows, it causes an issue. When I had eczema, I actually ended up being diagnosed with candida as well, and the skin issue presented in a different way. So it's not eczema on paper, but it's a very similar skin issue. And so if you have skin issues, you're going to want to identify if you do have candida. You can usually do that with a stool test. I'm here to tell you, you can go spend all the money on the stool test to get the diagnosis of having candida, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to do the same work anyway. You're going to have to clean the gut. You're going to have to clean the liver. You're going to have to clean your body of all this crap. And then you'll usually be good. There are small individual cases where there might be something else going on. But yeah, usually that's the case. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. Subscribe to the Anti-Sugar Daddy. If you guys are looking to either fix this skin condition and do it in a non-conventional way where you're actually going to see results and not have to take creams for the rest of your life. Like I said, the 90-day Skin Saver is a program that I provided. I wish I had it when I was younger. This is why I've created it. It's a video course. You get some access to coaching, and you get the DNA report. If you're just looking to optimize your DNA, if you just stumbled upon this video for whatever reason, and you're looking to understand your DNA better, to be able to take out inflammatory foods in your diet, take out things causing inflammation, optimize your performance in the gym, whether you're a high-performing athlete or an entrepreneur, the DNA reports are also very good. I will include a link to that below. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, fuck sugar.